Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about altitude sickness. You know, there's a lot of people that have been talking to me about altitude sickness, talking to me about what it's like when you go to some place like Machu Picchu, or you're going to Colorado and you're going to go hike a big tall mountain, and they're asking me questions about how do you deal with altitude sickness and what is it. So I thought this was a really great time to talk about that. So the reason why you get altitude sickness is because your body doesn't have time to acclimate to the different oxygen levels. And so what can happen when you have a rapid change in your oxygen level, the air pressure is lower, so that can lead to your fluid leaking out of your blood vessels and kind of accumulating in your brain and your lungs. And that's why you end up with a headache and you don't feel well. So it's kind of like the symptoms that you get when that happens is if it's just a mild case, you can get some dizziness, you can get some fatigue, you just don't feel that great, maybe a little bit of shortness of breath, you might not sleep well, you might lose your appetite. A moderate symptoms would be like weakness, you start feeling dehydrated, you get a headache, you get nausea, you start to vomit, and you have some chest pains. Now, when I was in Machu Picchu, I definitely had moderate symptoms. I was in Machu Picchu, excuse me. When I was in Cusco, where it's 12,000 feet, I started having moderate symptoms, and that was kind of crazy. And it could even be really severe with shortness of breath. You can have the inability to walk. I started to get that way too. And so it's kind of crazy to understand how it can affect different people. So, and it's called acute mountain sickness, like if it gets really bad. And there's so much information around the sickness, but I just wanted to give you a little taste of what it can be like, because interestingly enough, I was speaking to a friend and explaining to him my symptoms when I was in Cusco and how I was so sick. And he reflected back and said, oh my gosh, 20 years ago, when I was at a high altitude, I thought I had food poisoning. He was so sick, he didn't realize that it was altitude sickness, which was probably what he had. So it's really good to understand it, because I certainly didn't understand it when I was there. Now, the risk of getting altitude sickness is anything over 8,000 feet and higher. Now, 75% of people experience some type of altitude sickness, and it's not predictable. I mean, they say it could be genetically prone, but there's no way to test it. There's no way to predict if you're going to get altitude sickness or not. Like, for example, if I already got altitude sickness once, the chances are I'm going to get it again. So you kind of need to figure out how to mitigate your risk if you're going to be at that height. Now, Machu Picchu is around 8,000 feet or more. I don't know exactly what that elevation is, but I know it's less than 12,000 feet where Cusco was. So how to prevent altitude sickness? Well, the first thing you need to do is try to go slower up the mountain if you're hiking, or if you're going to a place. Like, for example, I shouldn't have flown directly from the ocean directly into Cusco. Maybe I should have, gone halfway, or maybe I should have stayed at a lower elevation. Maybe instead of staying in Cusco, I should have stayed in the Machu Picchu region. So you need to kind of go slow so your body has time to acclimate, 2 to 3 days sometimes. And then a trick that the Peruvians told me after the fact is, when you get to a higher elevation, the first thing that you need to do after you check into your hotel is go to your room and lay down for at least 2 hours. Don't go sightseeing, don't go, running around already, but make sure that you lay down for at least 2 hours, whether you're sleeping or just laying there. That's really important to acclimate. I never did that because I didn't know about it, but I definitely would do that next time, because I would try anything. There are also medications that you can take before you get there that can help with altitude sickness, so you would need to talk to your doctor about that. And also, they say to make sure that you don't smoke, you don't drink alcohol, that you Don't take any sleeping pills or any anti-anxiety medicine. Just try to make sure that you drink 2 to 3 quarts of water a day, and then just pay attention to how you feel and rest and go slow. If you're hiking, they say for sure that don't do too much, don't overexert yourself, and if you need to, then you need to go back down the mountain. And that's what helped for me the most is, when I was in Cusco, then I went down to the Sacred Valley, and it's lower. And so that eventually helped me. But I did take some nausea medicine. They say make sure you have some acetaminophen or some ibuprofen to make sure that you can help with your symptoms and your headache. And that's kind of what you need to do. In those higher elevations, you can do, cocoa tea. If you're not in the United States, you can chew on cocoa leaves, which really was helpful. But in the United States, of course, we take ibuprofen or acetaminophen. And so you really just want your body to adjust. The most important thing to remember is to listen to your body. And also there are places that you can take, you need to take the oxygen. Because I know that the first time I went to Cusco, I got really sick. As I've said a million times, I got really sick. But when I went down to the Sacred Valley and I stayed in Machu Picchu and I felt really great, but then when I came back to Cusco to stay one more night, I started feeling sick again. So I needed a little bit more oxygen. I didn't move around a lot. And then I hightailed it to the airport to get home because I had an early flight the next day. So anyway, I really hope that this information has been helpful. I know that when we're coming into summertime and we want to hike and we want to do all that fun stuff and be out in the outdoors, and people are going so many places with high altitude, it's just nice to know what that means and what that could do for you. So anyway, have a really great day, and I hope to talk to you soon. Ciao for now. Oh, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Let me know what else you want to talk about. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.